Okay. All right, could you sort of mute yourself until, yeah, all right. So this is just going on a list that I have, not particularly if they're going to come in. First of all, these are hand-picked people, okay? Hand-picked people, and you'll find out why. For example, now, when I announce who he or she is, you're going to wave at the people just in case they don't know who you are, because guess what? These are people who have already risen to the very, very tippy top. You might even don't even know them at some other recent meeting, but they've come back. They've come back. So you might not recognize their face. Okay, so is everybody muted? Okay. All right. Kitty Alvarez. Aha. Okay. Woohoo! Now she joined her first corporate club as a charter member, and she was a VP back in 2015. And then this is like been there and done that. You know, she's discovered her Latina voice and so forth. But what was really significant for me is that she was the district director at a time when I stepped from my way past, having been there, done that, you know, I stepped up to be a division director, you see. So not only is this person going to be here addressing a lot of the issues, you know, she and I survived March 2020 when everything that was going to be in person cannot be in person anymore. So we're going to talk a lot about that because I have heard the pandemic is one reason why we have such a paltry list of leaders or area director. Now, the second person that is going to be among my group is a fellow named Tony De Leon. Oh, there he is. You know, he looks the same. He looks the same. You know, don't you all wonder how he looks like without his mustache? You'll never find out. Okay. Okay. Now the same thing about Tony. He has been district director. He has been on at the top as well, but he has received what they call the presidential citation. That means that not only have you performed at the district level and you really served the district well, you've got recognized from people outside the district and say, wow, you've done a really good job. And this is a coveted award. Not everyone could be getting this as well. But Tony and I go way back when he's done everything, growth director, PRM, all the way to the top. Okay, now we're going to have to ask him a question. Now, another person on my panel who also received the President Citation Award, I'm telling you, it's not easy to get it, okay, is Rita Barber. Oh, there she is. Yes, see, she not only rose to the top as district director for D4, but right at a time when they were going to cleave and break it into two different districts, there she was making that transformation from District 4 and then District 101. Yes, she actually straddles both districts sometimes in her area of responsibility at the district director level. So we've got a lot of questions for her. And then last but not least is a person named Joy Fang. Oh, yeah, there's Joy. Now, her claim to fame, and none of you are going to be able to do that, is that she is from the battery of genius scientists that brought to you your vaccine. Oh, wow. She's going to correct me.
Early remdesivir, and hopefully, actually, it's not a vaccine. I hope you can hear me well because I've been complaining my speaker doesn't really project well. But let me know if I need to move back and forth. But the idea is not vaccine, that hopefully none of you need to take remdesivir, because that's for who are hospitalized, and later on really actually first proved to the hospitalized patients, now actually has improved for really even infants. But really the idea is none of you get to that point, only get very mild symptom and move on. But that's my kind of, after all years of being a scientist, that's my claim of fame. Thanks, Elliot.
Wow, claim to fame. Yes, I knew it has something to do with the good stuff that has to do with the bad stuff. Anybody hear of the bad stuff called the COVID? Yes, yes, okay. Well, just out of curiosity, how many of you have caught COVID? Oh, wow. Yeah, you see, even leaders could get that. You are not immune just because you're going to take this role. Because that's my first, what they call a disclaimer. I'm not asking you to become area director because it's going to be vaccinated against. No. Okay. So another comment, of course, I'm going to kick off the panel discussion, is that Joy Fang was an area director, gosh, over 6 years ago. And so when we decided that we needed to have area directors to step up, she was the first one. Okay. Wow. Imagine that. Okay. So a couple of the theories that I want to share with you is that this whole group of lifers, I call them, they are all going to say, been there, done that. These are been there, done that people. And so sometimes we don't want to grab the position because we want to offer it to somebody else. But because of the pandemic or because of the changes out there, job changes, location changes, whatever it is, there are so many openings for the area director now. And you've seen the chart that I showed you. We really need to have the area director because that's the eyes and the ears and the foot soldier for the district. From the area directors is how our district level is able to find out what's going on. So I've got a panel of 4. And so I'm going to ask a couple questions. Well, I'm going to ask 8 questions at least. And if you do have questions, please feel free to enter it in the chat box. I have a very, very dependable secretary, a scriber, I call him, who's going to collect those questions of yours. But let us ask the questions first. And these are the questions that I'm hearing over and over again by people who say, no, thank you. No,
Elliot, can I interject?
Sure.
Because our guests actually, I think more than just 4 to 5, actually would possible to let them introduce themselves, at least for us, because you introduce us, but we know nothing about them. So at least I know nothing about them. Do you mind just like let them introduce themselves for a little bit? Then when we address the questions, it'll be much easier to speak to our audience here.
That's a good point, except that my boss said the time is pretty straight. So I'm going to ask, hey, boss, can we do that? Especially if people can only have 30 seconds to say who they are. Is that Pete?
Sure, very quickly.
Okay, so I'm going to go around what I see along the Hollywood squares and say who they are. All right, the man named Ken Colley, who are you?
There we go, sorry. Ken Colley, I've held just about every role in the district and international that you can. I was back when we were called governors, area governor, division governor, lieutenant governor of education and training, which is equivalent to the role that Elliot has this year, district governor, which is the same as Jennifer this year. And then I went on to be on the board of directors for Toastmasters International. I decided to volunteer this year to be a division director because I saw we have a real need for some of the past leaders to come back and give a hand. So a little bit of a call out to, there's a lot of past leaders in the Hollywood squares here. Some of you may want to consider being an area director again this year. So that's who I am.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Roselia, tell them who you are.
Hello, my name is Roselia Villalobos. I am currently the Area E3 Director, and I'm going to be the area, sorry, not there, but the Division E Director for 2022-2023. And my home club is First Republic Toastmasters. So this is who I am. Thank you.
Gaurav, tell us who you are.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gaurav Mitra. I am a part of the Global San Francisco Toastmasters Club. I have been with Toastmasters for 7 years. I started in Southern India, kept it going in Western New York, and now I'm here.
Woo-hoo. Welcome. Elena, tell them who you are.
I'm currently serving as a public relations manager, and I'm going to continue in my role in the next year. I started this journey as, I started this Toastmasters year as area director, and look where the leadership journey got me.
Alan Zong, tell us who you are.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alan Zong. I am a very active member trying to learn and observe and improve. Nice to see and meet with you, and let's work together.
Yay. Mike Fidel with that awful color shirt.
Hey, it's Gay Pride Week. Come on. Or is it month? I got the purple here. So Mike Fidel, I am the Club Growth Director-elect. What does that mean? I try to create new clubs and to retain or build existing clubs. That's it. But I don't do it alone. I do it with teams.
Yichun Cheng, tell us who you are.
Hi there. My name is Dee. I'm from Summertail 191. I only joined the Toastmasters for 2 years. I'm very excited to be the area director and to work and grow with everyone.
Welcome, Dee. Okay, Yichun Cheng, 郑先生，请教。
Hi. My name is Dee. Oh, I'm joking. So my name is Yichun Chen. I come from Taiwan, and I've been joining GTOS for almost 6 years. I currently working in the Gilead. So I'm in the GTOS where Jennifer and Joy both are. I'm glad to have this opportunity to know each of you. I hope I can grow my leadership skill here. Thank you.
And Rohina.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rohina, and I joined Toastmasters originally in 2002. And eventually I started teaching, so I had to leave Toastmasters, and I rejoined in 2018. And I was told by our club president that I've had almost every role within the club. So he kind of kicked me out to a higher level. He said, you need to go take a higher level role. So here I am, and I hope to make a difference in my area.
Yay. Wow. Maybe we should use that as a modus operandi. Kick her out of the nest. Kick her out of the nest. Okay. Did I get everybody? Good. All right. So in the interest of saving precious time, I'm going to go straight to the panel. So obviously, I'm going to lead with a question that will get people to be paying close attention to this area director role, especially say, all right, we're talking about in Toastmasters, everything we're doing in gaining Toastmasters are transferable, valuable skills and experience to be applied to your professional or in personal life. So my question to the panel, of course, is that what was it specifically about the area director role that had contributed to your professional and personal life? So I guess almost all of them could answer that question, but I'm going to call Rita to talk about that. Rita?
Thank you for that question. I learned from being an area director that it's an entirely different kind of leadership than I'd ever been exposed to, that I was educated on at USC, that I did professionally, in that it was really about a payoff to the people that you serve rather than a paycheck to the people that you think work for you. Working with my various clubs was an amazing experience, teaching me how to better speak, how to reach out to people where they are rather than thinking about where I was. It was huge. And for me, work-wise, it made my work just become better and better and better, which in my case meant that I was commanding higher and higher fees. And this was true throughout my journey. It was almost like every time I did something more in Toastmasters, you could see it in my paycheck. Personally, it made me a better mom. And I know that might sound weird, but I learned a different way of communicating with my kids, which resonated more, and believe it or not, got them to do things the way that I would hope that they would do them to begin with. And there it is, the long and short of it for me.
Yay, thank you so much, Rita. And by the way, we're going to do what they call the hand raising. You have this little thingy. You can raise your hand, lower your hand, but you could also just sort of wave it like this. Let's see if I could catch you. So, in other words, of my four panelists, if you wanted to add something to what Rita just said, just go ahead and do that. Okay. So I'm going to go to a second question. And the question, of course, again, is putting things in a positive light, but also a quizzical light. Now, these are what I call people who already have gotten their DTM or have risen to the top. So my question is, compared to the higher positions that you have risen to and achieved, why does this lower rank position seem to was more fun, and you say more rewarding? And I've heard many of you say that as well. One person in particular is Tony. Tony, come on, you've gotten the president's citation. You know, you keep saying you enjoy this role. It's way on the bottom of the hierarchy. Tony.
Thank you for the question, Elliot. Fellow Toastmasters. Yeah, when I was presented with the role of area governor, which is now area director, everyone pushed it as the best job in Toastmasters. And it truly was. It was a chance to build relationships with clubs, to step out of your comfort zone into, in general, clubs that would welcome your help. So for me, it's all about relationship building. So to be honest, it's where I met Elliot. It's where I met Ken Colley, who are still friends today. So one of the duties of being an area director is helping to build and bridge the community of fellow Toastmasters and figure out the strong clubs, the aspiring clubs, and collaborate with one another and share ideas. And learning to facilitate that is a skill that I have developed. And these are skills that are transferable to work, where many times I might have to step onto a client site, which is not my home office, and speak on my technology and do my presentation. So that was something that was really, really, really uncomfortable when I started. But today, it's just part of my lifestyle and makeup. I can be anywhere, and these positions help build that confidence in stepping outside your comfort zone. Back to you, Elliot.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you. And in fact, that question was something that I was going to ask all the panelists before I jump to a more specific one for each of them, is that there's just something about the area director role that seems to be a little bit different than if you were a district director, you see, or division director, something about the area. So Kitsy, what is it about the area director role that made it distinguished from your district director position?
Thank you, Elliot. For me, it goes back to what other people have said, is the relationship management, is the fact that you are working directly with the clubs and really being able to see immediately the impact you're making. When you're district director, you're leading a team and you're relying on that team to do a lot of the work. And yes, you can interact with members in events and things like that, except now we're a lot online. But the area director is uniquely positioned to be that voice of the club and to interact directly with them. And I just love getting to know those members and building those relationships. And honestly, this role helped me better prepare for the other roles, because a big part of the higher level roles is about relying on that network and tapping that network to help you and volunteer to bring your vision to life. And if I hadn't built those relationships when I was an area director, it would have been a lot harder as I moved up to do that. So I think that's the beauty of that role. I think it's also that for me, I just love helping and empowering people to be the best that they can be. And that's really what the role is. One, for the clubs that are doing really well, you're there to rise them up, recognize them, and let them know you're doing a great job, and lift them up and show them to others. For those that are struggling, you're there as a sounding board, a coach, and really helping them get out of that and give them ideas and work with them to see how they can improve their club.
Thank you.
To you, Elliot.
Thank you, Kitsy. Thank you, Kitsy. Yes. And you were heard from somebody, you heard from Jennifer, district director, who said, wow, somebody said that they don't want to be an area director because I was like, 10 hours, I don't have 10 hours to spare. Now, that is the most popular rejection notice that I have had. So now that work-life balance is such a buzzword these days, where people tend to say no to any more obligation because I've got my family, my husband is complaining or my wife is complaining and my children said they never see me, and yet my panelists, every single one of them, they have a family, they have a husband, they have a job. So I'm going to ask the person who actually came up with then this for all, there I go again, okay. She came up with stuff that really helped the whole generation, and yet she signed up for both area director then and area director now. Joy, can you explain what is it about work-life balance, not enough time?
I have to say, I'm not an altruist compared to many of you. Like kids say you want to help others. To me, that's my secondary because I feel I haven't even been able to take care of my family and myself. So 7 years ago, when I signed up to be area director, my goal kind of just like to do the DTM, big sound so good. Especially when I look at the Tony and the Rita, and people out there like, I want to be like them. But I have to say, my husband is not supportive at all. So like weekend, I have two daughters at the time was 10 and 13. So they have the activities in a sense, imagining, so I get complaint all the time saying, are you going to abandon your family on a weekend or an evening, just go to an event? But now actually 7 years later, if we have young mom, a working mom here, I can tell you, this is the best investment. Like Rita said, make me a better mom, a better spouse, and really a better overall person at home. I mean, I work, and so when I look back, my family changed. the dynamic change because with time your kids pick up from you. And also how, when I work with my husband, I use really a sandwich approach, make him feel great with my feedback. So the bottom line, if I have a mom or especially Asian mom thinking like, what can I do best for my children? You're an immigrant to this country. I really think the best investment is being active in Toastmasters, and that will improve the whole family. Thank you. Get back to you.
Yeah, you know, that was wonderful, Joy. I actually want to give 1 minute to my panelists to add on to that, you know, because I've met the husbands. I've met the husband of these people. Okay, so Rita, you have a husband? Well, tell
that's
us
what
about
he thinks
him.
at least. No, yes, as a matter of fact, we just celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary or something like that. The thing is that it's really not just giving time, which was something that I was worried about. In fact, I was asked 7 times to be an area governor, and only on the 8th time did I finally say yes. Because I thought, I don't really think I have the time. I love my little club. I don't want to step out. But I decided to say yes on that 8th time, and I'm so glad that the person who asked me was so persistent, because what I found was you always have time to invest in yourself. And yes, you do help others, but you must take the time to invest in yourself. And as an area director, that's exactly what a person receives. They don't realize it at first, but you do. You invest in yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. Tony, you have a very, very dedicated wife who never wanted to join Toastmaster. Oh, work life, family, balance. Tony?
True. Chris, was a volunteer at school on school board. So she had many opportunities to practice her public speaking skills. And Chris kind of knew that I had, issues speaking in public. And she's the one that kind of pushed me out of the house. You were talking about Toastmasters. You got this great job. You have time. Get away from the computer, do something. So she pushed me out, and I found San Mateo Toastmasters being a great club. And, always kept Chris informed on what I was doing, which clubs, the enthusiasm. She knows the difference in me. And to be honest, Chris really liked the District 4 group, right? Many times at conferences, you would see her running the raffle. And then my daughter and now my son-in-law, Ricky and Ari, were there also selling raffle tickets. So it was a family affair to do Toastmasters. And they also have traveled with me to go to conventions. So for me, it's a lifestyle, and they know it.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony. Yes. If you ever want to be in Tony's inner circle, which means his family, you get to be invited for the famous Christmas Eve tamales dinner. Yeah. And it was at that Christmas Eve tamales dinner that I actually met Kitsy's husband. Did you know Kitsy had a husband? Kitsy, how does he deal with Toastmasters in your life?
He's very supportive, and one of the things, thankfully we don't have children, and one of the things that we really strive for is to be our own people and make sure that we have time to do our own thing. But he has come to my events when it really mattered. But I think, like Rita mentioned, for me, the time that this takes is time that I am spending on myself. The reason that I joined Toastmasters and leadership was because I wanted to grow my skills and use my skills in a different setting. So I'm an instructional designer. I do corporate training for a living. And when I joined, when I was area director and PQD, it's like, how can I help put those skills to the test in a different environment, but also grow them? Because leading volunteers and leading at work, not the same thing. But it does help you with leading at work, because if you can get volunteers to do something for free, you can more easily convince people who work for you to do those things without just telling them to do that, because we know that it always goes better if we have buy-in.
Yes.
Thank you, Elliot.
Yes, if they had buy-in. As I've said, that there are a lot of people who are on this call right now who probably could very well be on my panel. And I'm just going to break away from my fabulous four and just let one person speak, because he's going to be a lifer. You know, he's going to be a lifer. He's chomping at the bit already. You know, he'll volunteer for everything. And that's the man with the yellow shirt, you know. Yeah. Alan Zong was area director. He was area director. He was division director. Plus, he invited me to have dim sum to meet his children so we could talk Toastmasters business. Alan, tell us in 1 minute, what is your secret? 2 kids, dim sum, Toastmasters, and me.
My secrets, I can tell you that my secret is that I game the most when I am putting the quote unquote leader in my head. Nobody is led by me other than my kids. They are the only exceptions. I collaborated with my team and I'm part of them. I want to work with them. I am having a lot of fun joking with them or listen to their stories. And that is the only way for me to have a motivation to continue living. Just a piece of joke. But Elliot, that was a great time. I haven't been in dim sum for so long and I hate that place because it's so loud. We have to be forced to move to a library where we cannot talk loud yet. But that was a great time. Thank you.
Yes. As a matter of fact, it's just a real answer to, like, how do you balance family, you know, work-life balance in Toastmaster? Kizzy says they're young kids. They are young kids. They are little ones. They are little ones. And can you imagine at a restaurant with 2 little ones and talking Toastmasters business? Here's where this whole thing will mean something to you. I said, Alan, you know, this is like a Sunday afternoon, you know, beautiful weather outside, and here we are talking Toastmasters. He pointed to those 2 little kids and says, Elliot, these 2 are why I am in Toastmasters. I want to set a good example. I want them to see everything that I believe in Toastmasters. I want them to see leadership. I want them to see accountability. I want them to see responsibility. Whoa, we're talking elementary school age kids. Yeah, yeah. So those are the reasons why I love Toastmasters, especially the people you know you're just going to be lifers because you're not being paid to do something, you know, except maybe if you invite me for dim sum. Yeah. No, none of us are being paid. None of us are being paid for this. Okay, now I'm going to shift gear and talk about maybe the other side, the darker side of being an area director. So, I mean, tell us the truth. Was it all that smooth and wonderful when you were area director? You know, what was the most frustrating part of that job? Okay, so I'll start off with, all right, let's start off with Rita. Well, as you recall, as area director, what were the problems that came with that title?
Initially, I would say that it was a problem for me to figure out how to get these people to get together with me from the different clubs for an area council meeting. But every problem for me, and I'm not saying this except that I mean it from the heart, became an opportunity. So what I learned was, in order to get these people to meet with me, it was important that they understood that I was ready to listen to them first. And then from listening to them, from their knowing that I was there, not to tell them the latest and the greatest from District 4, but just to hear what the latest and greatest was in their club, where they could use some help, where they could speak with one another rather than my just being there. That's when everything started to change for me. But it was very difficult. And I had one club that throughout the entire year still was resistant. I mean, it was ridiculous. I told them that they really needed to be at the contest as an example. So what do? They brought like a bushel full of strawberries and they said, okay, see ya, and split. And I was kind of like, no, that's not what I want. But the thing is that, again, they never brought strawberries to any other contest. So it was a little bit of a step forward, if you know what I mean. It was difficult. I'm just not going to kid you. It was difficult, but the difficulties taught me an awful lot. And it wasn't all difficult. There were some incredible moments where one Toastmaster who had been in Toastmasters for 15 years and thought he wrote the book came to me for information. I was kind of like, what? Seriously? That was a cool moment. So that's what my thoughts are. Yeah, you might have some difficult moments, but look at that difficult moment and say to yourself, how is this possibly an opportunity for me?
Great answer. And because this is true, those of you who were area directors then or area governors then, can you really cite some real problems that have to do with it? I mean, as a division director and hearing from my area director, they said, I can't stand those reports. I had to write those area reports. Okay, so I'm going to ask each of you who have been area directors before, that was one example that I cited. What examples can you cite? For example, Kitsy, when you were area director, do you remember? Come on, it was, don't sugarcoat it. There were parts of it you could say, I need to tell them that.
Wait, about the report itself, or are you asking me about what was difficult about the got it. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't all rainbows and sunshine for sure. You will have some strong clubs and some struggling clubs. And as an overachiever, I was like, I'm going to have my area be distinguished. That's not even a question. But you quickly realize that it is not about you. It is not about your goals. It is about the clubs and their goals. And it might just not be possible that a club can reach that level. And really, we have to meet them where they are, as Rita mentioned, right? And so that's the biggest learning that I learned through that process, was really figuring out what are the small wins for each club, because they're different. So like Rita mentioned, I too had a club that was just not very involved in the district. They were a small club. They were a good club, but they just really didn't want to do much outside their club. But I came in and I came to their meetings and I talked to them about the contest. They've never been to a contest before. I did a presentation on what contests are, and then I got them to come to compete for a contest. And I was like, this is a win. I'm gonna take this as a win, because this is what they said they wanted to work on. They wanted to be more involved in the district. So that's what I focused on with them. There was another club who was really strong and they just needed support and acknowledgement and recognition. But then I had a club who was just constantly not active. They basically would fall out of paying their dues, and they would then pay just enough to not be suspended. And it just was this cycle. And they were very small. They were kind of doing their own thing. And that was really frustrating as someone who's a rule follower and who really wants to do things by the book. But I had to just decide, I need to give them the support that they need or back off and let them do their own thing. Sometimes you're going to have to make that call. And of course, I went to my division director and my district director and talked through this and figure out what was the best approach for that club. And I felt like I couldn't really help them as much as I wanted to. And that was difficult for me as someone who just wants to help people. So I just want to say that you really need to talk to the people, to the clubs, and figure out what do they need from you and help them with that. And don't try to push your own agenda onto them, because that's just going to alienate them and then they're not going to respond. Back to you, Elliot.
Thank you, Kitsy. Joy.
Oh, thank you, Elliot. Actually, I do have something to share, because when we talk about club, actually it's never a whole homogeneous group. Because when you go to clubs, each club, if they need help, they're for different reasons. And so really spot, for example, they have, if someone really quickly, that's a part I answer question why I like to be area director, because you're entering someone's home and you see the dynamic, the drama, the someone and try to lead and no one helps. So really fun. And the idea I feel really works is basically if you have the president doesn't work or doesn't step in, you spot the ones, the shining jewels there and brush the dust off and say, you can be a leader, because they all say, I don't want to step on toes. I say, there's no foot there to start with. Just walk in and really, there are sometimes of okay, and come back to the report. I mean, no one will grade on you. Do you get an A or get a C? So the idea is just give you, I feel, a framework, and you don't have to come with quite an answer for everything. For example, sometimes ask you, how does the club prepare for meetings? You ask the president, ask the other one. So after meeting can have emails to say, hey, tell me your answers. I may not have it during my visit, but tell me your answers. Really, so in a sense, when people say, I hate that, I'm saying you only do it twice a year. Come on. And you will never get graded. So I'll stop there. So that's my answer. Thanks.
Thanks, sorry. Yeah. Now, Tony, you were area director, that was so long ago when you were called area governor, okay? But there was something about the area governor position that's made you still want to go back. Do you remember any negative experience you had as an area governor?
Sure, Elliot. You know, I come from a strong club, San Mateo Toastmasters. Back then it had a membership of 60 members and it was a vibrant club. And to be honest, I thought every club in the district was just like my club. So having the shock of going into another club and seeing maybe 6 people in the room and, you know, just not having them greet me the way I expect a club would greet someone, you know, kind of inspired some stories that I think Elliot and I created a skit on what's wrong with this club. But I found that you don't necessarily have to deal with the club president or the club VPE to write your report. Many times I would go in and say, who's the first one in the room? Might have been the sergeant at arms, might have been a member. And I would just start a conversation and eventually ask, hey, have you given a speech lately? Have you done a manual? And I would just write names and what they've done. And over time, it may take 2 or 3 meetings to finally meet enough people so you can actually write that report. The other suggestion that the district made, if you go into the club, ask to take on a role. And the role that's most desirable would be the general evaluator, because then it's a chance for you to evaluate the club meeting, not the actual club, but the meeting itself and what they can do to improve the next meeting. So that was the work, but it was fun. It was fun to see, and to be honest, I learned a lot from other clubs as well. Back to you, Elliot.
Thank you, Tony.
I add one quickly I learned is actually when you email back to the club you work with, email to all the officers, not just the president. That's I learned quickly.
Yes.
Back to you.
Yeah. Well, the comment, of course, is that there are titles and there are bureaucratic descriptions of what people are to be doing. But if you listen to all the panelists, it was because they had their boots on the ground. They actually physically went to visit them. Now, in this case, even though it's during virtual meeting time, you actually were there at the meeting and you saw from yourself what the dynamics are and who the real leaders are, not just their titles. You watch very carefully, and that's key as well. So that brings me to my other question to my panel, is that so far, because it's like the time commitment, everybody's so busy, they got a new job or the pandemic has created such a havoc in their life, to get them to even come together to do anything, that is why people stay away from the position. I'm guessing as well. You know, getting them to come to your area council meeting, that's supposed to be an important thing. They have to come together and either for events, for content, how do you get them to come to an area council meeting? Because that's important. And if they don't, you don't really have a group here. You don't have a tribe. So who am I? All right, Rita, it's yours.
When I didn't have success initially with my first area council meeting date, I decided, I'm not ashamed. I decided to bribe them. I said, you guys come and meet me at Starbucks and it's all on me. And I got them to do it that way. But, you know, it was the first step. I didn't have to bribe them after that. But that's how I got them to come in there. Because these folks, I don't need to tell the people who know District 4 as it was, now we're part of District 1. But in Santa Cruz, it can be a little bit tough to get people to participate. And they're kind of like, oh, no. But that's how I got them in there. And then when they saw how we were rolling and everything like that, it was easier to do it. But it was not so easy initially. And then also to Joy's point, which I thought was excellent, is that I learned afterwards when we'd have another area council meeting, I would just send an email to the entire club. So that way they were being held accountable by their members, not just by what I wanted.
There you go. Hey, the way to every district letter is through their stomach, huh? Yeah. Well, Tony, the snack master, he was really one of my favorite magnet to any event and any position. He provides the food. He provides the food. Okay. Now here comes something that's a little bit tougher. Getting them to be participating in your area contest. Whoa, that's a lot of people. And if each of them are not going to do it, guess who ends up doing it? Woo, times 12, times 10. So please, panelists, all four of you, tell us about that contest. How were you able to pull off with getting them to do it instead of you? So let me ask, let's see, let's go with Kitsy. How did you get them to volunteer or come to the contest?
Yeah, so I think working on the contest is something that you have to do from the beginning. And thankfully you only have one now. I'm pretty sure my year was the last year where we had two that we had to do. And so the first one was really hard because you didn't have as much time. You have more time before your contest comes. And so one of the things that I did was I didn't focus that at first, but I had it in the back of my mind. So I visited all the clubs as much as I could, and I volunteered to help them. So I would take on a role when their contest was coming on. I volunteered to help them with their contest. And so basically I did what I hoped that they would do for me first, so that they're more likely to want to help me if I've helped them. And so when it came time to ask for volunteers, they were more willing because I had volunteered for them. They had seen how it was done, right? Because I was there and I could help out if they needed help. And then also, it's really important to talk about the what's in it for them, right? Tie it to their leadership journey as well as their pathways, right? Is there a project that they could take advantage of serving as the chair of my contest and now they can get credit for that? What are they going to gain from being part of my contest? You know, leadership skills, volunteer, whatever that is. And really is, I say this about really getting leaders in general. Part of your job as an area director is to identify those potential leaders and find opportunities for them to grow and be ready for that next role. So if they want to be an event planner, contest is the perfect thing, right? So one of the things, again, it goes back to that relationship management, getting to know the members, getting to know the officers and what their goals are. And then you can more easily match the volunteer opportunities to their goals to help them grow. So if they've told me, oh, you know, I've never shared an event and I really want to do that, then I can find that opportunity and then mentor them along the way. So it's still work because it's different work, right? You're not doing the work of maybe chairing, or you're not doing the work of getting the snacks or whatever it is, but you're doing the work of helping that person succeed. And that's different work that can enrich you and grow your skills while growing theirs as well. Back to you, Elliot.
Yeah, thank you, Kitsy. So you heard from Kitsy and all, even the panelists, that it's the person, it's the relationship that you have for you to work from. But unless you actually go to visit the clubs, you do not know who those people are. You have no relationship there. It's only when you go to the club and build a relationship. So you also heard, don't start right around contest time. Build those relationships before contests come out. And the only person who seems to do it, my friend, is the area director, because she or he goes and visits the club. Yeah. So now I'm talking about the idea of visiting the club. There's the other elephant in the room, the pandemic. So I know the pandemic has been blamed for why you do not have all these positions filled. Gosh, that gosh darn pandemic, So in my interview with some of the international directors who are running for office on the global level, they said very clearly the pandemic is actually a superficial reason. You know that by now, okay? Pandemic is around been 2.5 years. So if they're still saying that's the reason my club is not happening, or that's why I'm not stepping there, that's a superficial reason. So I asked all my panelists, of course, is that the pandemic is here, and the pandemic may be the reason people will not step up to more responsibility. So what is your answer to how to deal with being an area director during the pandemic? So Joy, what do you think?
I'm looking at Yitren, my good friend Yitren here. Yitren doing daytime job, she actually works on computer a lot. She's really smart, right? All the programs support our clinical trial data analysis. And unfortunately, she got offered a better job. So now she's leaving Gilead. Keep it hush in this group. Yeah, but the thing I told Yitren, I said, you're going to her, the one of the real benefit of the job, she can work remotely all the time. So I said, Yitren, you need some social interaction. So that's really my counter to that. The pandemic really makes me cannot be area director. I'll say to the opposite, because you still need to persuade people. Along you work with people just remotely, you still interaction, you still need to all this. So Yitren think about it, and she said precisely. Now she's willing to serve as area director. So that's my reason. Thanks, Elliot.
Yeah, thank you, Joy. Well, we have less than 5 minutes left, and I wanted to make sure that those of you who attended, if you have questions, I would like to address them. If I don't get to all your questions, we are going to have more of these forums. So let me ask Ken now. Ken?
There were no questions.
Okay. So there are no questions. That you're still good to raise your hand if you are thinking of something for now. If not, I could easily throw in my other question that still has to do with the idea of the pandemic. So yes, Tony, you say something?
Ken has his hand up.
Oh, Ken has his hand up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a comment going back to the contest. I was also an area director, governor, when we had to do contest almost immediately. The one thing I got that was amazing was we had contest training from Shelley Horowitz. And one of the things he made very clear, it wasn't my contest, it was their contest. And that's how we presented it. It was their contest. How was I going to help facilitate them having their contest? And we always had great participation. And the same with the area councils. As far as the Starbucks, I did chips and salsa at El Dorito. That got a lot of, we had at least 2 of the 3 members of the area council from each club come to every meeting monthly. And it was, how do we help one another? And that's what I made the whole area council about, is how do we support each other? So you make it about them instead of you.
That is true. I was one of the ones who showed up to have his salsa and chips. And from then on, I became an area director and then became a division director and then became that PQD. It all started with that salsa chips at Doritos. Gosh darn that.
I can add, actually, I found at the beginning, if you ask your club, say, sign up for this area director, area contest, no one will do that. But I say, I need 3 things from your club. I need 3 roles filled: evaluator, timer, ballot counter, and they will figure it out. They will just figure out. So I have Excel, we all use Google, but in a sense, I already assigned these things, got to get from your club, and I'll send that whole thing, especially towards the club and towards the content to the whole club. Because again, sometimes you don't count on the president cannot count on the officers, just call for the whole club, because I have occasions that the club is really dying, but this 1 or 2 person step up, so they can help with the timer, and they move on to another club, become really active. So my point is just spark the little fire there. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Wow, that was wonderful. So there are people here who are area directors, were area directors, who may not have been on my panel. So at this point, with the 2 minutes that I have left of my precious time with you, if you want to say something, just go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll let you say. Well, for example, Mike Fidel has been an area director. He's been an area director many times. How about that? So, Mike, do you have just in 1 minute your wrap up of what you have to say about being an area director?
I like being a division director, frankly. No, it's very much the same job, and definitely start out. You're going to learn a whole new world of Toastmasters at the area director level. You'll learn to network. You'll be kind of like nudged into forming teams. Not only nudged, but you'll just naturally gravitate toward it because it's just easier that way. Plan dual contests. If one person can't visit a club during the afternoon because of work, swap clubs. At least, someone be there during the meeting. There are those types of things you could do. You'll network, you'll make new friends. That's really about it. And I hope maybe visit in person, do some team building in person. Okay.
Okay. So that pretty much wraps it up for, Rita, yes.
Just one quick thought. Each level that you move up in leadership in Toastmasters is always something new. There are new skills. It's like learning that you have different muscles that you didn't know you had that you build on. Being an area director is incredible. You do a lot of bodybuilding, so to speak, in that role. Division director, it's different muscles again, because now you're working with your area directors rather than dealing with the clubs one-on-one, right? This is so for the entire direction. And one thing I'll tell you that was very helpful for me to hear when I was an area director, or back then they called him area governor, the answer when someone says to you, step up into leadership, should be nothing other than yes. Give yourself the opportunity. I took it on blind faith that would be true, and hoped and prayed that would be the case. And I must tell you, it truly has.
Thank you, Rita. And actually, on that note, I have created a whole series of workshops, presentations, and all this, and they're called the Yes series. You see, this is the year of the yes. This is the year of the yes. Kitsy, did you have something to add?
Just one little thing. One thing that I remember, Stephanie, when she was district director, that she mentioned, a lot of people asked when they first started their year as area director, when am I going to feel like I know what I'm doing? And she said, June 30th. So just to, a lot of people say, well, I don't have the skills. I don't know how to do an area director. That's the point. We're going to teach you the skills and you're going to grow with us to be an area director. So if you feel like you have no idea what you're doing right now, you will, as the year progresses, know more, and we'll give you. So don't feel like you have to come in knowing how to do the job entirely. Just have a passion to help members and to grow, and the rest will follow.
Yes. Yes. Okay. And because all of you are leaders and leadership in the making, I want you to take today's gems, go out there and find us qualified area directors, if not sign up for it itself. And for those people who will say, you know, I do want to share this one last slide with you that I used for every one of my clubs. I belong to 5. And when I asked them to step up to be officers for the clubs, this is what made the difference. I said, you want to know the difference between a master and a beginner? The master has failed more times than the beginner has ever tried. Yes. And if you look at this character here, at this point, I will confess to you that I do have a nickname. What do they call me, Rita and Tony?
Yoda.
Yoda. That's what they call me, Yoda. So from then on, you know, I'm going to have a ask Yoda. Anything you don't know, ask Yoda. Okay, I'm going to now give you your meeting back to my boss,